Hi, I'm here with Frederick Knopf. This is Shelby Knopf. Hi, Mr. Frederick Knopf. This is my Opa, or Grandpa. So, Mr. Knopf, you've lived through a lot of history in your lifetime. Is this right?
That's right.
So, can I ask you, how, as far back as you can remember, where did your family settlement begin?
Germany.
You know what part of Germany?
Yes. My father came from northern part of Germany. My mother come from central Germany, a village called Würzburg.
Okay, and who is the oldest family member known in our Knopf family tree? Who do you know? Who's your oldest family member?
Alive or passed away?
That you remember his name?
That's my Oma Schmidt. She lived to be 96 years old.
Okay.
And my mother lived to be 100.
Wow. And your Oma Schmidt, was she married?
She was married to my Opa Schmidt. And my mother.
What do you remember about their lifestyle based on that time?
They lived in Germany. They were poor people, but they were Christians. But they didn't have any money, and most of their family came to America back in the middle 20s to find a better way of life. And that was my mother, Anna Schmidt, and then my father done the same thing. He come to America after World War I to find a better way of life in this country.
So your family came to USA to find a better life because of World War I?
Correct.
Okay. How did World War I influence their lives?
It influenced their lives when the war was over, Germany lost it. They were occupied by another country. They didn't have any money. They didn't have anything to eat. Nobody could find work. And they had relatives in this country, and they said they should come to America where we don't have war and also there is work in America to be had. So they came to this country in 1924. They came on the same ship.
Oh, do you have a picture of that ship?
Yes, I do.
Where'd you get this picture?
It's been in family history as long as I can remember. Been laying around the house or on the farm as long as I can remember. And that's where I got this picture.
Did you get it from a newspaper?
No, I got it from my mother. She had a picture of it in her memory bank or in her souvenirs at the house.
I thought I remembered there was like a newspaper clipping that you found about the boat they came over on from the US or from Germany.
I don't recall.
Okay. That's really interesting that they came on the same ship. Did they know each other at the time?
No.
No?
No.
Where did they meet?
In a school in Wheeling, West Virginia.
So you were born in 1927, right?
That's correct.
And the Great Depression began around 1929 when you were 2 years old?
Right. That's correct.
What memories do you have of this time period?
This time period from 1929 to the Great Depression, I was a boy. Only memory I had that we didn't have any money and everybody was poor and we didn't know it.
When World War II came along, how did that affect you as a first-generation German living in the USA?
In the first place, my mother never became a citizen of this country. So we were considered enemy aliens. And the neighbor children picked on us because we were German and everybody had a father or brother or somebody, knew somebody in the war, and anything they could do to our family, they thought that was helping their soldiers, whatever they had in a different country. and we were instructed, if we done anything to get the sheriff out to the house, that we were disorderly, fighting, anything, our mother would be put in a concentration camp or deported to Germany.
Wow.
So we behaved ourselves.
Did it affect you, like, going to school in your daily life?
Yes.
The kids make fun of you?
German, I was considered an alien, I was considered an enemy by the kids, and I got punched around a little.
Oh. They call you a kraut?
Worse than that.
Oh.
Kraut was easy. They used swear words. They used words that you never hear in Sunday school or read in any Bible, right?
How old were you when you were drafted in the military?
Oh boy. 18.
How did this affect your life?
It deprived me of getting a high school diploma. It made me be considered a high school dropout. And it affected my life greatly. We're looking for employment and other things of being an upright citizen. I didn't have a diploma, and I just didn't fit in with some groups. But it's over. I eventually got a GED and caught up with things.
So when the Korean War came along about 5 years after World War II, were you also drafted into that war?
I was in the military, naval inactive reserves, and I got drafted into the Army in 1950.
Were you a medic as well?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, was that in World War II that you were a medic?
No, I wasn't a medic then. I became a medic in training before I went to Korea.
Okay.
For a brief story, I got drafted down to Fort Knox. They wanted to send some people down to Fort Sam Houston, make medics out of them. I said, why me? They said IQ. And I went down for 10 weeks of training, medical training, Fort Sam Houston, Texas.
All because you were smart?
I just believe I had them fooled.
So over the 12 years you were in the military, you spent 3 years in active duty.
That's right.
Do you have a favorite combat story?
I have one combat story I like to tell when I got sent out and wound up to rescue a fellow medic up a long hill, and that they're in no man's land. The company that my medic friend was in was run over by the Chinese and the North Koreans, and they bugged out, and they took, the North Koreans took the position, and I was out there in no man's land, and my outfit behind me, they decided the Koreans were going to come down over their hill, so they opened up with their 50-gallon machine guns with me and my friend Creckrell and 4 Little Bear laborers that were hired by a Korean were out there in no man's land getting shot at from both sides. Quite an experience, and quite an interesting experience too. So I didn't know the password, and I didn't know how to get back to our outfit, but then I took over. I was in command, so I ordered to stay put until dark, and then we would get back in our outfit. And then the guy with me that was helping me, he went kind of crazy on me. He was yelling and carrying on and saying all kinds of things, wanting us to surrender to the enemy. We're going to get killed, and I would have no part of that. So I finally called a halt to what I was doing. I pulled him alongside me, and so other people couldn't hear me, and I told him my opinion, and he bought it real quick. I told him, I'm in command, I'm taking charge, and we're going back there. I'm leading. I want 50 yards between men, and if I get killed or get shot or get wounded or I can't handle it, start thinking what you're going to do when you go into command. You're in second in command. Got it, young man? And he finally got to thinking. He says, I believe I have. I says, now, don't interfere with me anymore till we get down in our outfit. I walked down to our outfit. I didn't have the password. I heard a very familiar sign, the click of a BAR. It's a Browning automatic. It's a small machine gun. I yelled at him that I was a GI. Don't point that thing at me. And the guy pointed straight up in the air and says, you the medic that got lost this morning? I says, I'm not lost. I've never been lost. I know exactly where I am. And I walked back in their outfit. End of story. Or the beginning of another story when I met with the captain that sent me up there.
And that traveled, right? That story traveled. You said that it traveled, that story.
I did what?
That story, you said that traveled. It was a month later, people were still asking you, were you the lost medic?
Yeah, they did. They always somebody got to say something, you know what I mean? It just happens that way.
So fast forward a little bit, during the Cold War, were you genuinely expecting a nuclear attack on the United States? What was the average person's response to Russian threats?
The average person's response was that we're in a Cold War and we're pointing guns at Russia and Russia's pointing guns at us, and anything could set this thing off. And people were very worried about it. They were starting to build bomb shelters. They were still talking about what are we going to do when an atomic bomb hits the city of Cincinnati or the city of Indianapolis. And I told them, well, if an atomic bomb hits in the Cincinnati area, it's the city of Seven Hills. Got a whole lot to worry about. It drops in the valley somewhere, and the mountains will keep it from going any further. But they didn't believe me. But anyway, the Cold War come to an end. I don't know exactly when, but it did, under a name of Reagan. Ronald Reagan was president. He went over and visited Russia and said, look, why are we pointing guns at each other? You know what? We just put the guns down and behave ourselves.
Yep.
And you wanted me to ask you, it's not about Reagan, but I remember you wanted me to ask you in this interview about Roosevelt.
Roosevelt, all right, going back in history, Roosevelt became president right after Herbert Hoover, and he became president, and he was going to end the Depression, and he did. He took this country, he realized the people didn't have jobs, didn't have work, and everybody so because nobody had work. So he put the people back to work through organizations like WPA and other organizations, conservative ground, infrastructure work, and all types of things of this nature. And also he enacted the poorhouse. If you were losing your property and you didn't have to go out in the street and have to live in tents or in the bushes or whatever, he enacted the Poorhouse Act. You go to the poorhouse, your wife goes to the poorhouse, and your kids go, they work in and around the poorhouse, around the buildings. But the poorhouse also had a farm, and the men went out to the field and worked. All right? And they paid them a little bit of money for this, and then when they got far enough along, then they could get out and go to work and build stuff like camps, campgrounds, parks, and whatever else. And this did help to bring the Depression back and the people back on their feet financially. And then in 1939, the war started over in Germany called World War II. And at that point, people started working in defense plants and also making airplanes and weaponry and everything else. And everybody was busy then. Everybody worked in a defense plant making war effort and things like that. And this country did revive financially.
So, why did they bury Roosevelt so fast after he died?
Roosevelt ran for 3 terms. He ran for 2 terms. He ran a 3rd term. And people thought if he didn't bury him real quick, he'd get up and run again.
Okay, that was actually my only question about Roosevelt. But thank you for your time, Mr. Knopf. And if for sharing with us a little bit about your family history and life remembering history.
Oh, you're forgetting you're my granddaughter.
Okay. Thank you.